Hello, and welcome back to Good CEOs, episode 4. For those that are joining me for the first time, every second episode, I will host an episode on my own. And I use this as a chance to reflect on all of the things that we see as a growth consultancy running unknown. We have over 1,000 conversations every month. And so we get to see all of these different things and hear all these different things that are happening in the creative economy. I'm very lucky because today is the day after our monthly Good CEOs meeting. So every month or 6 weeks, we gather 20 to 30 different CEOs from our group of 65 CEOs, and we sit down and we ask everyone one same question every time, which is, what is the one thing that you're struggling with right now? And this was the time where we said, look, either answer that question or you can ask a question of the CEOs. So I'm going to use the first part of this podcast to talk through the things that I picked up from that 2.5 hour long meeting, and then combine it with also what we're hearing and seeing in the industry from our 1,000 conversations as well. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that came up was transitioning your business while protecting the core. I know this myself, right? We 18 months ago decided to evolve Unknown from being a recruitment company into being a growth consultancy. And typically we focus on all the things of how it's going to sound and feel and you know, you do all the fun stuff, right? But the hard thing is the restructuring and figuring out what is the structure of this company? How does it need to create value and deliver value and all of those things? I'll give you a small example as to what happened to us. So we went out into the market, we did this wonderful film with 10 days like we spoke about in the last episode. And then all of this noise happens and you get these like really exciting, oh my God, this sounds really good and like, well done. And we were expecting to see like tons of briefs just fly into our inboxes. And it was quite quiet. Like the first January, when we launched it, the first month, we were like, normally we have, 4 or 5 briefs flying into our inboxes every week. Uh-oh, what's happened? Have we positioned ourselves out of the market? Have we kind of gone too hard on talking about the future that we've forgotten our clients in the current and in the past? And so we did this thing and we just like started Googling creative recruitment company or exec search or team building, London, New York, LA. And the scariest thing ever happened. We'd fallen out of Google page 1 search where we had always been organically appearing the whole time. So I have to be honest, like when you're so sure on a new strategy or so sure on what you're saying to the market and the website and the copy and everything that you've worked so hard to do, and then you see that you're falling out of the bread and butter of what generates revenue for your business, yeah, that was quite scary. But it didn't take us long. And I really wanted to speak about this because I opened up to the good CEOs and said this to them and said, like, how do you guys, when you're running an agency and you're moving from being an above the line agency into becoming a transformation, value creation business or whatever term you're using, how do you, layman's terms, say what you actually do and sell and what you want to be doing more of? Because if you go too hard on the future, on the new thing, that then starts to make it quite confusing for your current customer base and makes them maybe think, oh, are you not right for us anymore? Which is entirely not true. Still 80% of our revenue comes from doing recruitment and doing exec search. So luckily, one of the good CEOs recommended their friend, and their friend runs an AEO, GEO business. Wasn't really familiar with what these terms are. I didn't know what they stood for. Apparently they stand for Ask Engine Optimization and, oh God, Generative Engine Optimization. Essentially what has happened is in discoverability, we've moved from being a keyword search based discoverability to a conversational based discoverability world. So people aren't just Googling creative recruitment or ad agency London. They're asking their ChatGPT or their Claude, who is the best advertising agency or who is the best creative recruitment company in London? So that means that we're moving away from this world. You know how people would just like keyword dump and they would like meta tag dump all of their stuff on their website, and that would appease the algorithm for search. We didn't do any of that. We wrote from the heart. We wrote from the what we're seeing in the creative economy and what we want to achieve in the creative economy, and none of that was explicitly saying we are the best exec search firm in the business. We are the best M&A. We're the best creative recruitment company. And so because of that, when you were to Google anything or have a conversation with Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT, we wouldn't have been coming up naturally in those searches. So after doing all of this restructuring, after doing all of this repositioning, we figured out that there was this back end world that we had to be aware of. And the cool thing about that is, like, it's not just changing or putting an FAQs thing on the landing page. It's weirdly leaning towards PR and like trade press and neutral bodies featuring what your business is and how it works. So like, I'm calling this now. I think we're going to see a huge resurgence in press articles, a huge resurgence in natural PR for a business, because it's the most organic way of explaining what your company does and not just plastering it all over your website. So that was a really big thing, transitioning our business, but also protecting our core, not just in how we sound to our clients, but also how we're appearing and what our digital footprint is as well. And then yesterday we were speaking about how do you land it with your team? Like any company that's just been acquired or any company that's selling a new strategy to the rest of the company, we think it's as easy as standing up, showing some wonderful slides, showing the new website, and then hoping that everybody learns. But the truth is, the change happens and the adoption happens more in one-to-one meetings. And there was this brilliant CEO there yesterday that was saying, like, the only time that we started to see the change in the company that we wanted to see happen was when we made it super clear on a one-to-one basis what this change means to the world and to our clients, but more importantly, what this change is going to mean to you. So that was a huge, for us, it was a huge learning to go, okay, you crack it, you tell everyone, but then you tell them one-to-one over and over and over and over again. And that's when the penny starts to drop. So some big learnings for us, huge learnings, and changes. Like, you've changed all this stuff and then you're changing everything again, but it's more evolving what you're doing. So that was the first thing, is like, how do we transition and protect our core at the same time? The second point that came up a lot, and I think we are entering a world where this is going to be the case for every agency and brand and business, and that is how we receive feedback. Have we got shitter at giving and receiving feedback? Because I don't know about you, there was a time where the book, it was Ray Dalio, I think, like Radical Candor, I forget the name of the book now, but I want to say like 2019, around that time when we were all in the office, this idea of 360 feedback and radical clarity and honesty and being good at giving and receiving feedback seemed to be where we were heading. And we had these high performance cultures where it would be very normal, and it's a thing that everyone was trying to work towards, to give honest, clear feedback. And something's changed, perhaps post-COVID, when relationships at work became very functional, and you'd be on a call, there wouldn't be much time for small talk. It would be very much like, we're doing this, close laptop or move on to the next call. And I think what happened in that moment was a loss of osmosis, nothingness. Those, like, when you leave the meeting room and someone goes, oh, can I just grab you quickly? Like an organic moment like that, where you sort of have time with each other to say, hey, when you said that thing, I know that's not how you're trying to come off, but it made me feel like you said X. I think we lost those moments. And so all of the new people coming into the workforce had never even experienced those moments. And now, if they started their career, junior people started their career in 2020 or 2019, they would have done the first 3 years of their career in a hybrid situation. Now those people are moving into management positions. Now they're 6, 7 years, moving up in their career, and they haven't had the grounding or the awkwardness of getting good at giving and receiving feedback. So I think we as a business are really focusing on how we can reintroduce the idea of 360 feedback. We had a coach in the room yesterday, he won't mind me saying his name, Sam Pierce, and Sam said something that I thought was really valuable around how do you give and receive feedback. And it's so simple, but when you say the word, I need to have a difficult conversation with someone, what are you doing to your mind? What are you doing to your body before that conversation? You're rising the level of anxiety. You're raising the bar of expectation of how hard it's going to be to have this conversation, because you're calling it a difficult conversation. And Sam said this brilliant thing, which was turn that into a positive by saying, like, I have a gift. I actually have a gift to give, and I have a duty to give this thing to this person because it's going to evolve them and it's going to evolve their career. And I think the first thing is you can't obviously have that conversation with somebody that you haven't got trust with. So the first thing has to be like, how do we build trust in order so people can be vulnerable and give and receive that feedback? The other thing is, okay, firstly, seeing it as a positive and seeing it as a gift, but more than that, how somebody receives your feedback isn't necessarily your problem. And that sounds quite strange, but I think the biggest reason why we don't like giving feedback to people, even though it's a necessary thing to do, is we're worried how they will react in the moment. And yeah, in an ideal world, everybody would react positively and they'd say, oh, thanks so much. That's really helpful feedback. I'm going to go away and evolve my career. But we know that isn't always the case. People can be very resistant to receiving feedback. They can deflect, or they can defend, or they can bounce it back to you. And that makes for a really uncomfortable situation. If we were okay with that, and as a CEO or a leader in a business and got used to the idea that it's going to be probably a little bit uncomfortable in the moment, but what they go and do after that is totally up to them. I've done my thing here, which is deliver this gift, deliver this thing, which is going to lead to hopefully positive change. And I'm willing to accept that the tax on doing that is a bit of an awkward moment. So I think this is a thing that I wanted to talk about because we want to focus on getting better at that as a business. And everybody in that room yesterday, all however many CEOs were in there, had said this is a problem and we need to proactively do something about it. So I wanted to bring that one up. The third thing that we spoke about was the junior talent crisis. Now, I spoke about this last time. I spoke about how we're seeing the inverted triangle moving up from, we'd have loads of juniors, a few midweights and a few seniors. We're seeing the entire reverse of that. Loads of senior people, a few midweight people, tech, and then very few juniors, very few chances for a junior person to enter the industry. That is an issue. And we're seeing, Meta, all of the companies that I think Amazon, loads of these companies have brilliant graduate schemes and there are, famously the Mother Runners, graduate scheme, incredible way of getting junior talent to get an experience across the whole agency and then figure out which route they wanted to go. We're just not seeing that anymore. We haven't really seen in advertising, design, influencer, a strong, committed, consistent graduate scheme. And I think that's a huge issue. And I think whoever wants to win this game, I think there's a huge white space and opportunity for agencies to own how they're hiring junior talent in. And we spoke about what would that look like? How, if you weren't to see junior talent as a long-term investment, as a cost up front, if you were to see it as revenue generative from the beginning, to make it an easier case, and it's horrible that we have to even say that. It's genuinely horrible to have to say, like, how can you make hiring junior people less of a drag to your bottom line? Because if we're honest, right now, the conversation in every agency and business has been so focused around capital growth, EBITDA, margin protection, that we've almost shied away from having the conversation of saying, well, junior talent, we'll get to that. Firstly, let's figure out the AI thing, then we'll move and we'll get to the junior talent. What if you looked at that problem or opportunity as a way of beating your competition, evolving your business and generating more revenue? And where we got to with that was younger people, junior people will obviously know much more about technology and AI. And there are, more senior people in that company that know less about AI, but more about interpersonal skills and how to work with clients and people. We should be doing whatever we can to bring those three components together. And we spoke about this lovely idea of, imitating the Mother Runners program and saying, you have one person that puts their hand up and says, like, I want to work with a junior and an AI or an agentic AI as a trio. And as a trio, we're going to crack problems every day and be better than the team that we're up against. Could you create like this dynamic between agentic AI, a junior person in the business, and a really senior person, and see what they can create and generate as a as a compounded sort of unit within the business. So that was, I wanted to speak about that because I think we see junior talent as a challenge and as a long-term investment that might not even pay off, whereas we could be seeing that as a way of evolving and innovating how we do our best work. So that was the third thing that came up, and there are some really cool ideas as to how we can do that better. And if you haven't got the time, resource, or capital to do that right now, I always go back to Alex Beck, which is do that one thing. Take that one call from that junior person, have that meeting that's going to mean the world to that junior person to hopefully introduce them to one other person, or give them one piece of advice, or tell them a story from your experience. All of this stuff is so helpful and it's so impactful that if we all just did one thing for one junior person, then you're doing a great job. I've got one person that I mentor, funny enough, in the world of recruitment. It has nothing to do with the creative industry, but for me that really matters. It really matters that I can give some kind of knowledge or experience that might help them along in their journey. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling a bit guilty, then my one thing right now is, what one thing can you do for a junior person in the industry? All right, we're going to move into my predictions. Again, these predictions come from 1,000 conversations that we have at Unknown every month, and also from our 60 or 65 person Good CEOs group, the insights that come from those really in-depth meetings that last 2 or 3 hours, and we have them every 4 or 6 weeks. So here are my predictions. Prediction number 1. Interpersonal skills are so back. You probably saw this one coming from my feelings ramble, but we're seeing the machine taking over. We're seeing people confiding in ChatGPT for anything from how to cook dinner and how to make my friends love me, how my wife love me, how do I pitch this idea? We're confiding in this machine. And that's brilliant. It's actually, there are some fantastic things that come from AI and in just helping you take emotion out of a situation. The problem with that is now leading to a lack of interpersonal skills. People are becoming less okay with being vulnerable in front of other people, with not knowing how to connect with somebody that's opposite them. And that is an issue. I spoke about how we're struggling to give feedback. I spoke about how we're struggling to take feedback. This is going to grow and evolve, and we can't outsource how we connect with other people. It's the one thing that we really, truly will always have left. I think we're going to start to see an investment from agencies and brands in how people and teams function together. I think people are going to start investing in courses, in public speaking, in networking. I think we're going to see the return of IRL events because I think we're craving it. I think we've had this incredible benefit of efficiency coming from AI in how we get our jobs done, and we know more, but we're feeling less. And I think the key thing, whether it's an advertising campaign or even like how do you get your employees to enjoy working here, it's not knowing more, it's feeling more. And the best way that we get to feeling more is by connecting more. And the best way that we connect more is by understanding, how do I connect with a human being and make them feel seen, heard, and loved? So I think that is what we're going to start to see a lot more of. It's becoming such a big thing in every agency now. At the most senior level, it's not just. There was a time 3 or 4 years ago where we blamed the millennials and Gen Zs. Remember that time when it was like, oh, they're entitled and different. Now they're just part of our workforce. Now they're our managers. They're leading people. They're leading accounts. They're leading businesses. So there's not a generational us and them anymore. We are all one, and we are all faced with the same technology, and we're all faced with the same idea that we're becoming less and less connected. So collectively, I believe we're going to start to see an investment back into interpersonal skills, and maybe we'll see some of that AI budget from all these efficiencies that AI is giving us being put back into training people how to be people again. So maybe I'll call this prediction the return of the human, and we're going to see humans become more human, which is great, by the way. That's what we wanted. From all of this tech investment in AI, I can see us just doing the things that we should be doing again. That's I think the trend that it's only natural for that to happen now, as we see AI come in and relieve us of some of the more administrative tasks. Return to human. Okay, my second prediction, and this is stolen, and I will credit the person that gave me this. But the second prediction is we are going to see 100 new independent agencies. Okay, that's quite nebulous because I haven't given you a time. When by, I don't know. But it was only 3 or 4 years ago that you could probably list 5 independent agencies. When that big, holding co acquisition behemoth situation happened, we were just seeing lots of independent agencies getting swallowed up and swallowed up. And as brands were moving into integrated offerings and giving their entire accounts to these media, creative, full service, marketing service-based businesses, there was less of a desire to take the risk of running an independent company. How can David beat Goliath when Goliath has all this scale? What's changed? So many things. Number one, clients don't necessarily want big anymore. They want agile and they want to be able to react. Number two, it's never been easier to start a company. It's never been less risky to start a company now. Number three, it's never been easier to build all the systems and the things that would have been terrifying as a founder 6 or 7 years ago. AI can help you with your accounting, can help you with everything. And so the logistic barrier to entry has been lowered. And there's been a glorification, it's fair to say, of entrepreneur porn, founder porn, podcasts like Diary of a CEO and things like that out in the world being like, you should be a founder, you can be a founder. I think it's an incredible thing. I think it's a fantastic thing for our industry because, as Sarah Tate once said about 50 episodes back on our other podcast, Untalented, we're going to see bifurcation. And we're seeing people and businesses branching away from the motherships. So Huge exiting IPG, RGA exiting IPG, private equity money backing those companies, building smaller groups of independent cohorts that are incentivized to either share clients and build something bigger for the greater good. This is not new. This is absolutely a cycle and what we saw in the past. The difference is the permeations and those kind of businesses are not how they once looked. And I think you have a choice here. If I was to leave my very big salaried job at a holding company to go and start my new business, do I stick to what I know and make a more agile, better, independent version of what I've always done? Or do I do something that's never been done before? So it's really tempting. And we're seeing, to be honest, both things are happening, right? You've got Ace of Hearts, Polly McMorrow, Rick Brim, Martin Beverley, very established, incredible, almost doing the uncommon effect where it's like, this is an agency, but we can look at doing things differently. We can look at doing IP. We can be very agile. Our executions could be a storefront, it could be a retail execution, it could be a Netflix documentary, it could be anything because we have huge networks of talent to work with and you trust us because we used to run billion-dollar accounts. So I'd say that Ace of Hearts is like, it's an evolution move, but they're sticking to what they have always been very good at, which is advertising, and they're changing how they do that. At the other end of the scale, you could look at a company like 10 Days, for example. 10 Days, fantastic name, right? Why in a world where all these big holding companies are taking 4 months to create a piece of resonant work, how the hell do you know what's going to be resonant in 4 months? That is mental. How do you react to these things in 4 months? That's not going to be relevant then. And the world moves so fast now. It's why we're seeing all of this money leaving advertising agencies and going to social media companies. The world moves too fast. But there's no reason why you can't be super strategic, brand platform thinking, but also quick to execute. And that's why they called it 10 Days. Because if you have a close client relationship and trust, then there is no reason why our big strategic thinking can't be filmed, executed, and activated in 10 days. Super smart, really clever use of spotting what's going wrong with the bigger companies and the reason why lots of new brands have started to work with them. At the other end, you've got this incredible new business called Block Report. This is really smart. And again, when I said you've got two ways of going, do you want to kind of own what you've always done, specialize, and then kind of evolve how you're doing it? Or do you want to do something the world's never seen? Block Report is one of the most interesting things I've seen. You could call it an agency, but it's an agency rooted in data, rooted in real insights, and a platform that you can buy the insights and the ideas. So I think the idea is that you sign up as a brand, you pay a membership, you get these incredible data insights about your business, and then you get these incredible ideas attached to each of those insights. And you can choose if you want to buy it or roll it to the next month. Check out the work they did for Itsu. It's unbelievable. Insight, obviously everyone stops buying Itsu, right? They stopped buying Itsu in December. I think it's Itsu's worst month in business. That's a brilliant insight, great for them to know. How do you get people to buy noodles and buy broths when everyone's out in the pub? This is genius. They get the Wheelstone Raider to do this really sad Christmas, and he's kind of going like, I've got no fans, and I'm walking around and no one's buying Itsu. And Itsu have just owned the fact that no one's buying it. And it's almost to make you feel bad for Itsu. But rather than make you feel bad for Itsu, you just feel bad for the Wheelstone Raider because he's got no fans. and anyway, the results are Itsu say, I think they had their best ever month in the 12 months that year in December. That's fucking awesome because you've got a huge data insight here, this machine that's pulling these things out the whole time that's super relevant to your brand, and a super intelligent, incredible activation. Boom, results. That's at the other end. We're seeing like people using mixed market modeling, MMM data, combining it with really, really smart creative. I'm very excited about that. I think there's a lot of future in there. I think you can be very intelligent with the model and how you price for that. We're seeing this consistency of agencies offering like a membership type offering with their pricing. You pay a low fee, so we're always in conversation, and we're talking, and then when you brief us, boom, the fee goes up. You buy a product from our shop, and then we put that out into the world. It's a blend between being a project-based business and also being a retained-based business. It gives you predictability of income, and if the work's good enough, why would the client go anywhere? So I love that. I can't do this without mentioning Bolded. This is really smart. Again, you get an incredible managing director, CEO, James Rowe from Adam and Eve DDB. He launched Adam and Eve DDB in New York. He leaves that agency and he ends up joining a company called OBB Media, which is an entertainment-based business co-founded by the co-founder of Rode, which is Hailey Bieber's thing. Again, data insights are coming through. You've got the influencers, like whenever you want to work with them, you can work with them, but you're evolving the work to make it like advertising Super Bowl quality, but it's got this kind of janky, as Laura Tannenbaum would say, element to it as well, where it feels real and not too polished. So if you want to see some awesome work, check out the Kevin Durant campaign, the Ashy Legs. And so he's now become the face of this cream, and I think they call him the face of legs or something like that. I can't remember the line now, but this is an evolution of what's happening. So love that. Like, check out all of those companies. Obviously, you've got other brilliant ones like 537 with Catherine Peacock. But that is me backing up the point to say we're going to see a lot of these companies. We're going to see a lot of independent agencies coming through. The beauty is they get to rethink, reimagine not just the kind of work that they're creating, but the kind of pricing models that they're going to have and the kind of client relationships that they're going to have. It's really exciting. It's nice to see this. It's nice to see people being like empowered and excited to just do things their own way. So bifurcation on the way, more of it. Let's see more of it. We've just seen like more and more execs leaving all of these holding co's. This is going to be a beautiful golden era of advertising, and I can't wait to see the work. Okay, so we're going to move to the Q&A part of this podcast. This is when either the good CEOs in the WhatsApp group or anyone that reads our newsletter or anyone that follows us on LinkedIn or anywhere can ask us anything or ask me anything, and I will answer as I read it straight away. So let's move into the question and see what we have this week. Hi, Ollie. I'm replacing myself with my co-founder with a group CEO. We want to remain operationally involved in the business and want to sell the business in the next 3 years. How would you approach this hire? Do we go for a visionary or an operational leader? This is a question that we get asked the whole time. Obviously, we run an exec search firm. A lot of the placements that we do are CEOs, and there is not a one way to answer this question because it completely depends on your skill sets as co-founders, your what you want to be doing in the future, but also what the business needs and what you're trying to achieve. So I'm going to make some assumptions that I know who you are and what you're trying to achieve by making this hire. So if you're replacing yourself with a group CEO, you're doing really well, and there's two of you already doing that role. I imagine you're at a good place, you're making lots of money, you're making great work, and if you're looking to sell the business in the next 3 years, we're in a very strong EBITDA position, and we want to just get this to the point where we can sell it. Now, acquirers are going to be looking to see that there's not so much founder dependency. They want to see as little founder dependency as possible. They're going to want to see all the obvious things like diversified client base, internationalism, or at least like an opportunity to go international. They're going to want to see that your systems are codified, that the machine doesn't break if you guys aren't there. And they're going to want to know that you've got basically all of this nailed down and that there's not risk, right? And again, it depends on the acquirer, because if the acquirer is making a strategic acquisition, and let's say you're a social business and this other company is a very media-centric business or a very traditional agency, it depends on what that kind of company is going to have. So I think we underestimate the value of creating a business that isn't founder dependent. And we also don't value the word autonomy enough, because where these hires go wrong is when there's a lack of clarity and there's also a lack of autonomy. You see a CEO or a founder replacing themselves with a new CEO, and they really struggle to let go of this thing that they've created. And although they feel like the company runs without them and the company feels like it's independent, you suddenly realize when you bring someone in to do your role, how much does still depend on you and how much you still enjoy doing in that role. So the first exercise I would do here is write a list down of all the things you love about your job. What would you delete from your role, and what would you double down on? And both you and your co-founder should be writing all these things down. What would you struggle to let go of? Like, is that the visionary part of the business? Is that going out and building the brand for the business? Is it winning clients? Do you still really enjoy being on client work? Does that still light you up? Is it managing people? Do you have such strong ties with your leadership team and management team that you're going to really struggle to not be their direct report? Be honest, be really brutal, and write a list of all the things that you want to own and double down on, and then all the things that you want to let go of. The next phase is, once you have both written that, that's what you want to build your job spec around. And you can use ChatGPT for this. You could just pop that in and be like, my role is this, my co-founder's role is this. We want to be doing more of this stuff, want to be doing less of this stuff. We want to achieve this kind of exit. What would this role look like? And get so painfully clear on what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. You need to clarify what this person is coming in to do, how you're measuring their success, what you're not doing anymore, and what this person is taking over. There's a lovely theory of implementation. When you bring somebody into the business, it should go, I tell you what to do in the first month, we tell each other how you're going to do the second month, and then the third month is you tell me what you're going to do. And there's this kind of like gentle onboarding process where I'll guide you in the beginning, we'll guide each other in the middle, and then you're going to be guiding yourself in the end, which is where everybody wants to be, especially if they're a CEO. They're going to want to be autonomous, and they're going to want to be trusted to crack on with what they need to do. You asked if it should be a visionary or an operational leader. The answer is hard to know without knowing what your skills are, but given the fact that you're both founders, I imagine a huge part of your success is the fact that you are visionary. If you're a traditional founder, I imagine that you're maybe not as operationally minded, or that doesn't light you up as much. Certainly is the case with me, although perhaps your co-founder might be quite operational. Truth is, you probably want a combination. You want someone to be systems and codified processes, and they need to kind of err to the COO level, but you also need them to be strategically minded, because whoever your acquirer is, with the idea of you guys having this, however many years, 3 years exit, you kind of want them to feel like this person has it and that they are the way forward, and you guys can be strategically involved and definitely, culturally involved, but not necessarily operationally involved. You kind of want to be, redundant basically within the first year of this person being in the business. How does that feel? How does the idea of people not coming to you to sign things off, or people not coming to you for executive decision making, it will happen. So I think just processing that in your mind and understanding how you're going to feel, because I've seen it so many times where the founder brings in a CEO. They never really wanted to go. They just wanted the person to come in to do the stuff that they didn't like. And it wasn't really a CEO's role. So ask yourself that question. It could be that you actually don't want a group CEO and you want a group COO. And actually all the things that you don't like around the operational side of things and are where you really want to hire in, and you want to go again and still be in the executive position of running the business. But I hope that's helpful. It's nuanced. There's never one way of doing this, but the best way to start is getting super clear and going from there. Okay, so that is the end of Good CEOs episode 4. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I found that really enjoyable to record, and it's fun. This is a fun thing to do. Next, we do have some really, really interesting guests. We're moving a little bit out of the world of social and into the world of branding and consultancy. So stay tuned. I really think you're going to enjoy the next couple of podcasts, and thank you for being here.